There's a big difference between being able to read an electrical diagram and just glance at one. If we just glance at them, most of the time we're probably going to end up wasting time. But if we take the time to learn how to read a diagram, it can actually make us money. Here's an example. Recently I was contacted by Pablo, a viewer, and he needed help with his system on a 2006 Hyundai Tucson. Now his problem was in the power window system. And here's the basic one-page diagram that shows everything on one page. Now if you're looking at the Hyundai system, you can see that there's various diagrams, but this illustrates everything on the one page. Now here is his email request. I tried to help a friend out, but I failed to find the problem. My friend's '06 Tucson power windows are not working. I checked the left side and the right side power window fuses, and there's no power with the key on, engine off. The fuses are good and they have continuity. When I add power with a power probe to each fuse, all of the windows work normally. I have no idea where the power for the fuses comes from. Then he goes on to say, I tried tracing the wires under the dash, but it's really tight and a little confusing down there because they had an aftermarket alarm system evidently. But anyway, the current owner states that the windows were working when they got the vehicle. Now here's how I would break that down. He said, when I add power with the power probe to each fuse, all of the windows work normally. Now that's evidence. What does it tell you? Well, it tells me that since the windows work when he adds power, that tells me that everything in this blue box in that diagram is not the problem. So that means the problem must be up here in this pink box area. So let's take a very close look at that area. Let's focus on this top part. Now you see that this is the power window relay, and it has a power side, which is a switch, and it has a control side, which is a coil. Now up here in this part, you see that this is hot at all times. Now it has also as a link, a battery fuse that is a link, and that's the power side. And now it also has a supplied ground. Now how do I know that the ground is supplied? Let's take a second and think about that. Okay, now remember, yes, he said he checked the fuses and they were good. But how does that prove that there is a ground? Well, he said when he added power with a power probe to each fuse, all the windows worked normally, right? Well, if the motors worked when he supplied power with the power probe, then they had to have ground through them or they would not have worked. And that ground would pass up to and through each fuse because of continuity. So yes, there is ground to the switch, and it is what we call a supplied ground. Now he also said, I checked the left side and right side power fuses and there was no power with the key on, engine off. Well, you know, there shouldn't be, because that key on, engine off, this is a switch. The switch is open. However, this switch is not dependent on key on, engine off. Instead, it is dependent on the control side. Now he said nothing about this link, so this fusible link could be bad, and that could be the problem. So that could be possible cause number one. Now a fusible link really is just like a regular fuse, but it's designed to fail before the wiring harness melts, and that could be the possible cause, so you would have to check that. That's the power side then. Now let's look at the control side. Now notice that there are two fuses, number 36 and number 28. And 36 is hot at all times and 28 is hot in the on position. Now why do we have two fuses? Okay, let's take a second here and think about that. Notice that we have two options. Fuse number 28 feeds power to the control if you have a TACM, and fuse 36 feeds power to the control if you have an ETACM. So what is an ETACM or a TACM? Well, the EATCM is an electronic timing and alarm control module. Now the TACM is timing and alarm control module. Are they the same thing? I really don't know. I imagine why they're broken down. It has to do with a year breakdown or something like that. But when I look this up in the information system for the 2006 Hyundai, I see now they're calling it an EATS, Electronic Timing Alarm Control System, but it is a module. And it receives various input signals, switch signals, and it controls the time and alarm, such as the intermittent wipers, the washers, the rear defrogger, seatbelt warning, decayed room lamp module, central door lock, ignition key, power to windows, and that's our problem, the power windows. So this EATCS is part of that. It also controls some other things. Has to do with the timing and alarm. Now here's the diagram for that, and you will see that this is the EATCM, and there's a lot of inputs in there, and one of them is the power window relay. So the EATCM definitely controls the power window relay. So anyway, how do they feed power or ground to the control? Think about that now for a second. Now be sure and read the diagram. How do they feed power to the control side? Notice that actually we've got a duplication down here. Does that mean that we have two of these ETACMs? No, there's one. It's just that one module is actually listed here twice in this diagram. So it kind of looks to me like it feeds both power and ground. Look at the diagram and read it. Doesn't it look that way to you? But you might be asking, how can it do that? Well, fuse number 36 feeds power to the control if you have an ETACM, and let's assume here that we do. So the power really goes like this. It comes from the fuse, it goes to the ETACM, and then from there it goes back to the instrument panel and then into this power window relay. Now the ground, look at the ground. The ground comes from a body ground, ground 02, in the center console. And it doesn't matter if you have an ETACM or just a TACM, that's where the ground comes up. So the ground goes into this module, and then it goes back to the power window relay. Now remember, it is a control, so it looks like they have designed this control to be capable of controlling both sides. So a possible cause here is the EATCM. And that's again where it's located in the left-hand side of the dash panel. You got to take a few covers off to get it. But now, because of critical thinking and reading the diagram, we found the possible causes. So if you're in the process of learning electronics and how to read diagrams, here's my suggestion. Don't just take a video like this because it probably looks so easy. Get the diagram out and study it. And whenever you get something you're not sure about, don't just glance at the diagram because you'll probably waste time. Instead, learn how to actually read the diagram and let that reading give you the answers.